What's up? What's up?
How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing? I just got done running.
Did you now?
I did.
Man, I'm jealous.
I had to go live the subject of this podcast.
Oh, did you now? Would you turn out a little 50-miler?
I ran, I think it was about 7.5.
Close enough.
That's legit. Mostly on trails.
It's all relative.
It is? In what way?
An easy 15-miler might be, easier than a 15 all-in. So it's all relative.
What does that mean? On trails?
Yeah, I'm saying as far as how far did you go? How hard was it? 15 miles on road or on a treadmill is probably a lot easier than a really tough 7-mile trail run.
Oh, 7-mile trail run.
Yeah,
I think it's twice. No way, dude.
No, it's all dependent on the course. I'm not trying to offer up some treadmill to trail equation over here.
No, I think that's what this podcast should be about.
Oh well, and that's the case. I'm going to suffer an internet breakdown here in a minute.
Yeah, I do want to bring up one quick thing about running and etiquette out there. I have a dog. You have a dog, and when you're out on trails and you come around a corner and you see like 3 dogs running around, it feels a little weird for me. And then I peek around the corner a little bit and I'm like, oh, okay, they're with somebody. That's cool. But they're not on a leash. And as I get closer, they all start running right at me. And I love dogs, but I'm still a little bit gun-shy of dogs, especially in East Nashville because it's, a wild dog haven. And so I'm running up and this girl's just like not even reacting, and she's walking right at me and the dogs are all around me, barking and shit. I'm like, I run up to her, I'm going a little slower now, and I'm like, hey, that's not cool, man. She's holding her leashes. And I said, that's not cool. And she just kept walking. And I said, excuse me. I said, I think it'd be cool if you put those on a leash, and she just kept walking and did not even say sorry or react or anything. And I don't know. I just had to let it go, but it was just
people don't give a shit anymore, Mike. She probably voted for Hillary, and she just decided, well, just screw it, and I'm just not gonna. You're a privileged white man. You probably voted for Trump, so I'm gonna go ahead and put you in a stereotypical bucket, and I'm just gonna piss on you every chance I get.
Wow. Well, I don't know, man. This is not a political podcast, but I do feel like that she didn't give a fuck about me one bit whatsoever.
Well, she probably didn't.
No, clearly, because I stopped and I actually said, "Hey," and she just kept walking.
She'd be like, "Hey, I'm actually with HGTV, and I'm trying to do, find some random person to do another one of these East Nashville home, makeovers that's on every other channel every other day, and you were gonna be it, but sorry." Yeah,
and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Although I could use it here, so they're doing a lot in East Nashville, are they?
Oh God! Every alley watches them all the time, and they have like at least I think 2 or 3 shows just based in Nashville. They just hunker down in East Nashville and do these renovations and flip houses and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, if any of you are listening out there, boy, do I have a challenge for you.
Yeah, well, if you're going to try to make it a fancy swank backyard and try to put that pool in the ground, then you're automatically disqualified from bidding.
No way. The above ground pool is my motto.
Yeah,
it's kind of my signature.
Model. Yeah, it is. It's what it's East Nashville, and it's if you haven't heard of it, it's the cool thing. You haven't heard of it, you probably wouldn't understand.
No. I live in Inglewood. I'm just outside of East Nashville, so I'm next. I'm sure there's going to be Inglewood flipped.
Oh yeah, it'll be called like the Woods of Ingle.
I like that.
Just wait, man. 5 years, the Woods of Ingle, and it'll be next.
That is it. I should put that up there. There should be a sign in my neighborhood I might put up in the middle of the night.
The next HOA meeting, I think you should kind of bring that to their attention and say, hey, if we've got a chance to kind of get ahead of what's ultimately inevitably going to happen, and we should just, let's up the prices, and we can go ahead and get to work on, the woods of Ingle,
Yeah.
insurance going. I think it'd be.
That reminds me of a quick story. I used to live in Rockford, Illinois, and I lived in the opposite of the woods of Ingle. It was completely in the hood, and my buddy was my neighbor across the street, and like right on the corner between us, there was a fourplex, and in one of there was like drug houses and prostitution and who knows what else, flop houses, and like all four of them were just awful, and it was all night drug runs and hookers and stuff. And one night he went out in the middle of the night and literally cemented a sign into the yard with a big arrow up pointing to the house, and it said "free hookers."
Oh, wow. Excellent. Excellent.
Because I guess the landlord would never respond. I mean, it was an unbelievable move.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. All right, man. So the cast today, we had talked about this a little bit earlier, and I don't know. We don't really necessarily prepare too hard, but we think about stuff, and we are going to talk about pain in triathlon. And for me, and I think most people, that immediate thought that they have is usually the run. Ironman Run or any run in a triathlon really is really where the pain comes out the most. But I thought that we would talk about maybe how to prepare for that a little bit, or describe maybe what it really is, or ways to kind of get around it, or now we're not doctors obviously, so we can't diagnose if something's torn or any of that kind of stuff, but I think that the pain that we're talking about, and at least I'm thinking about, is more or less inflammation in the body, and strained tendons and what have you, and things like that feel maybe awful or insurmountable, but in reality it's just part of the program. And how do you do you personally have thoughts on how to maybe train for that Ironman marathon, and how to teach your mind to get through it?
I wouldn't say I have any tricks of the trade per se, because it's getting to that level of pain, I think, is something you don't really want to do too many times in training, just because you're going to dig yourself way too much of a hole to get out of. I think the kind of the closest similarity would be any kind of a long training day where it's more mentally taxing. Physically taxing, the closest thing that I would probably say that's a safe route would be kind of tackling a cycling distance that's just way over what you've normally been accustomed to. It's just a lot safer than, if you regularly do 60-mile, bike rides, and you up it to 100 one weekend, it's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to suck, and you're going to hate it every minute going back. But the damage you're going to do isn't even close to what you might do if you're regularly doing 10 or 12-mile runs, and then one day you decide to do a 20-miler.
Yeah. Right.
That's the damage you would get from that. The only lesson you'll learn is that you're probably going to be hurt for about a month.
Right.
So as far as specific workouts, I wouldn't say that there's a level and a distance you want to try and get to. I think it's just more about putting yourself in situations where it's mentally daunting and repeating. Because that's what the Ironman Marathon is. It's just, can I get past the next mile? Can I just complete the next mile? I mean, we did something like that back when, in 2012 or 13, and you guys were training for Muncie, and we did like 10 1-mile repeats on the track, and it was like 100 degrees outside. Yeah. And that wasn't even so much for the physical benefit as it was for just the mental fortitude and patience and resiliency you had to just kind of absorb. That it was like, I got nowhere to hide, I got nowhere to go, Everybody's watching me. I can't just quit.
Yeah.
I just gotta kind of get through it.
Yeah, why don't you actually that's kind of where I'm going with this, I think a little bit is sort of this maybe this way to simulate and not as quite as intense or for as long maybe, but ways to kind of get that same feeling and then sort of just dabble in it. Now, why don't you just go ahead and describe that workout? I thought it was more like we did. Was it only 10 or 10 miles? I thought it was.
It was 10. I mean, we warmed up, I think, a mile or two.
Go through the whole thing. It was an awesome workout.
Okay, so we went. I think there's about maybe 5 or 6 of us met at the, I believe it was the Antioch High School track, and this is in I think mid-June to early June. In the summer in Nashville, and it's just, I mean, blazing hot. It's easy mid-90s. And we went to a black-topped track. So I can imagine, and I mean, I think it's safe to say the temp coming off that blacktop was at least in the low 100s to 110 range. We did a easy, 1 or 2 mile warm-up, and then you picked a pace to start at your 10th mile, and the purpose was to descend every mile all the way down to the 1 mile. So I started, I think, very, very conservatively, and then you got about a 1 minute to 2 minute walk in between each one to refuel and get some water. And then at the end, you were able to cool down for about a mile. So it was about a 13, 14 mile workout, and you try to keep track of your paces as they descended down. I think I actually was able to do it where I descended down. I think I started very conservatively, but it was hard to, because you were running with a group of guys who like to push themselves, and who's going to want to win lap 1, who's going to want to win lap 10.
Yeah. And
you kind of had to be patient and just know it. It was boring because, I mean, you're doing 40 plus laps, wind, heat, nothing to look at, no sound, no music, and it was more just after mile 4 or 5, it was just like, what do I really want to do, and how, do I want to take 10 seconds down this mile, and if I do, how can I withstand the next one? Because if you're descending, you got to think about not just the one you're descending to, but the one you're going to have to descend after that. If I'm biting off 5 seconds here and it's going to hurt, how much more is it going to hurt if I'm going to bite off more than that? And it was really just a workout of attrition and resiliency, that I thought was good practice, and everybody ended up finishing, and I think it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I like the way it started. Like you said, it was a kind of a warm up for a couple miles, and then the first mile, if I remember right, I think you wanted us to go at the most comfortable pace we could for that first lap, and not watch our watch, and just kind of like try to feel out a certain pace, and then when you look down, It was sort of like that was what you were set at. So it was up to you to kind of set your first pace, and that could have been a 10-minute mile or whatever you wanted it to be, and then to descend every mile thereafter with those short breaks and refueling at every mile, like kind of simulated aid station, which was just all kind of cool stuff, because then you were going faster each mile, and it certainly created a little pain as you went, but it was a shorter, you got a little break. So that's what I'm getting at, is as you go out to do workouts, like just for example, I went out just now and I ran close to probably 7.5 miles, and about the first 5 was on trails, basically flat trails, but with matted down grass, so it was a lot softer than pavement. And then when I came out, the final 2 miles were on pavement, and I could immediately tell, the difference in the cushion or lack thereof, and it just hurt a little bit more. So I had to really focus even more on being light and picking up and things like that. So, but it was a really interesting run, because I have a theory, or at least a technique that I use a lot when I'm running, and uh, it is basically, if like I started going today, and maybe at mile 2, I felt my left hip start to get a little, I could just feel it a little bit, that sort
Yeah.
of, it didn't really hurt, but I could feel like that was the beginning of something that would hurt towards the end of 10 or 15 miles or something like that. So what I always do in those situations, and I did this at Ironman Chattanooga, and that's what really sticks out to me, is I got to, I don't know, mile 20 or something, right before you go over the river and up into the hills, the worst part of the run.
Yeah.
I got to that part, and there's a little hill right before that, and right when I got to the top of that, first time all day, all summer, that I felt my right IT band just start cranking up. And I've had that before, right on the side of your knee, and it is the worst thing. And I said, no way am I going to, I'm going into these big hills and up and down hills with this thing starting to bother me. So I said, there's no way that's going to bother me. And I put every ounce of energy I had in just relaxing that area, like mentally putting a relax on that leg. And I did that today, and it worked for me that day. And I'm not saying, I believe in stuff like that. And today, the same thing was going on with my hip, and I just started kind of putting that mental energy into relaxing it, and I call it moving pain. And then, sure enough, like half a mile later, it was like my left Achilles started feeling that way. My hip problem or the hip thing was gone. And the reason I think that works is because I think most pain like that is tension, and you're either that or bad form, or you're pushing, or you're not, relax in certain areas, and they start to ache. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So that to me is, and I'm not like a great runner by any means, but I just think that I'm able to keep going by that technique, where I just really, really focus on relaxing my body, and especially my legs while I'm running, and lifting them up, and not, when you're kids, I think you're sort of trained as a child to think that running means just digging in and pushing off as hard as you can. And that's exactly almost the opposite of what Ironman running should be about. It's more about lifting and, and picking up your feet off the ground and using momentum, because you're not sprinting.
Yeah, you're definitely not sprinting. It's more, accepting the pain where it is, move it if you can, and just do your best to move forward. And find the least amount of ways to stop as you possibly can, and try to figure that out before you choose to walk instead of while you walk.
Yeah.
Because once you start to walk, that's the answer to everything. Walk and stop is always going to be the easiest and most comfortable answer. Especially in the marathon in an Ironman.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen. I mean, in some ways, certainly at Louisville was the best example of my caving into the walk. And at some point, walking, it didn't even necessarily ease the pain any more than when I was running. I mean, it was just kind of an even trade-off after a while. So
Yep.
I think that, this pain thing on the Ironman Run it really is such a mental game. And, of course, and I'm a big believer in hydration. I think that that inflammation is caused by dehydration and things like that. So I really try to make sure that I'm taking in as much fluid as I need or can handle. And I know that's all kind of, subjective, but I just think that goes overlooked a lot of times. And I think that probably starts on the bike, but so anyway, that's kind of what I was thinking about. And I don't know if you got any, even if it's a the Montague Run is a favorite one of mine. It's a sprint run surrounded by a warm up and a cool down, and sometimes I think that kind of thing can simulate leg pain, and you can sort of do your cool down at Ironman pace after some 20 minutes or so of sprint work, and it kind of feels a little bit like, it's just that feeling I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like where you're gonna fall over, but just to get used to that. Or like sometimes I'll occasionally wear, hiking socks, not hiking socks, but like Timberland kind of mountain or hike. Yeah, I guess they're hiking socks. They're not wool or anything like that, but they're thicker than the regular sock, and they get
your Inglewood socks.
My Inglewood socks, yes sir, lovey, and they heat me up. They heat my feet a little bit more than normal, especially in the summer. And I just kind of run in those once in a while just to make my feet kind of adapt to how hot a Ironman course run might feel like. I don't know, little things like that.
I think it's just about, it's more about the environment and the situation you put in. You put yourself in. And if you quit because of a specific environmental change or a specific circumstance or weather or whatever it is, you're just as likely to quit or give in during a race if you do it in training.
Right.
And I think, we always talked about when we would always go out to the lab, is that if we can handle the wind out there, then you're not going to feel it anywhere else. I mean, and I remember doing Muncie that year, and I remember and we had trained in the lab like 2, 3, 4 times a week leading up to that race. And I remember people talking about the wind on the way back and how bad it was. And I remember thinking, wind? I didn't even notice any. Like, whether it's your body gets used to it and it just kind of feels and absorbs and recognizes things differently once you've been exposed to a certain element a certain amount of times. For me, it was just like, obviously it did work, but had I not, take this year, for example, when I had to do so many rides on the trainer, I wasn't used to the feel of the wind. I wasn't used to what it took to power through. It felt difficult because it was new. And it felt difficult and it felt harder to me and uncomfortable to me because I hadn't experienced it in so long. And it didn't necessarily ruin my fitness, or it didn't mean I didn't have the fitness to overcome it or hold the pace that I wanted to, but it put me in a situation, environment to where you kind of doubted yourself.
Yeah.
When you didn't have to, but you're just more used to that specific scenario. And if that's the case, then, more oftentimes than not, you're going to at least, doubt yourself or lack a little bit of confidence, on where had you experienced before, you would just kind of kept on blazing through without even thinking about it.
Yeah, there's so many things about that. I in the spring I get out there and my first couple times on the bike, it's just, I don't know if it's the different oxygen or the wind that dries my eyes out or the allergens in the air or whatever, but it's a different situation, and it definitely affects you. It's how you feel out there. I listened to a podcast once with this woman, Amelia Boone. Have you heard of her? I mean, I've written about her before.
Yeah. Are you talking about the rugged maniac?
Yeah, she's a tough mudder
lady who goes out and goes on crazy training runs whenever it's horrible weather outside.
Yes, exactly. She's a tough mudder.
I read your blog on occasion.
I know, but I just thought it was appropriate, and I looked her up, and one of her things was that she will look at the forecast for the next day or whatever and pick the worst time of the day to run, whether it be the hottest or when it's going to be a thunderstorm or what have you. And she purposely puts herself in difficult situations in training, and then the race takes care of itself. And I don't know if that's pain necessarily, but it's certainly one way to train yourselves to deal with elements. Of any kind. That's
definitely one extreme way. I'm not sure that always just choosing the worst condition is probably the best way to train, but the most efficient way. But it's definitely a way.
Yeah. It's just something, putting it out there, Yeah.
How many of those obstacle course races are you doing this year, Mike?
I have never really had a desire to do those for some reason. I do think
sticking to color runs this year again.
Color runs, yeah. I've never won my age group in color runs, but hopefully this is the breakthrough year.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, they're thinking about canceling the color runs because of the racial undertone.
No, I thought it was.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
Oh, I thought it was the toxins in the.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's that.
Because I had read about that. Again, that could be putting yourself in a, difficult situation.
Yeah. I think it's good for people trying to, cure their anxiety, or maybe trying to, hermits. Maybe they're trying to get out and meet crazy, weird people, and be able to be cordial around other human beings that aren't necessarily like you. I think that's a good experience.
I think you're right, and I always got a kick out of this, and I just looked it up again because we're talking about color run. But you ever listen to Ben Greenfield? I know that we had talked about him. I can't remember.
I don't know. I think he's like, I don't know. I feel like he's like David Koresh and Lance Armstrong had a baby. That's kind of how I feel about him.
Yeah, he goes. Some of his stuff is really cool, and there's I don't know. I can't. I went and watched his Ironman nutrition video once, and he makes his own, and it's about 25 ingredients or something. It was really intense. But he had an article one time called 10 Tips to Get Ready for Color Run. And I was like, and I guess the first one is all you need to know, and that is register for Color Run.
Yeah, that's it.
That's, I don't know.
Register for Color Run, participate in Color Run, wear the stain for 2 weeks, and that's it.
Yeah.
Wear a bandana. You got to wear a bandana.
Yeah.
You got to wear a bandana. Yeah, no, I lost all my respect for him when he endorsed one of those universal magnetic world core, I'm at the center of the universe bracelets that gave him extra power and balance. Anybody who endorses that crap, I have little to no professional respect for.
Wow, not a believer, huh?
No. No, I'm not.
What are you proposing, hard work?
I'm proposing hard work, dedication, and not shameless self-promotion and sponsorship of products that you absolutely know are complete garbage, but for the sake of a few extra sponsorship dollars, appealing to them. It's just there's so many things these days. There's so much garbage. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent right now, but
well, it sounds like you are.
Yeah, you know what I am. You see this whole beach body performance bullshit that Ironman's now you see all these pro triathletes retweeting all the beach body performance. I'm like, none of them use that. And none of them have used that for forever. It's actually one of the more stranger partnerships I've ever heard.
I haven't seen it.
And they even gave out the protein shakes from their Beachbody thing at the end of Wisconsin. I was like, sorry, I don't want some chocolatey super chalky protein shake at the end of the race. I want some pizza, a Snickers, and a Coke.
Yeah.
And the other one's I sleep on this bed and it aids me in recovery. No, it doesn't. Stop lying. Every bed aids in recovery. Well, you just got to get enough rest.
Yeah, that's true. And I could be talked into a free bed if somebody's. I'll test it.
Yeah, I know you'll test it. I mean, you've done 10 sleep lab runs before, just you make some extra cash and get some extra sleep and money on the side.
I'm working on a run workout where you don't even have to leave your bed. It's just a breathing simulation.
Interesting.
Yeah. So keep an ear out for that one. I've got
I'll be on the lookout. That's got sponsorship opportunity written all over it.
Well, listen, my internet mentor Wim Hof claims that he ran a marathon in the Sahara Desert with no training or water.
Mm.
So, He doesn't claim. He actually did it. It's documented. But
did he walk or did he run the whole thing?
I think he may have worked in some walking, but I'd have to see. But he also did it barefoot.
He probably worked in. Is he alive still?
Oh yeah. He's submerged himself in ice water
for the rest of his life.
An hour and a half. He's climbing. I think he said Kilimanjaro or Everest in a couple weeks with shorts on. And
backwards?
No. He just doesn't. I don't know if he wears shoes and he just wears shorts. It's really something.
Interesting.
But that is what it is. But I do like his theories on breathing and the fact that most of us are oxygen deprived and are deep in our cells. But that is a lot of times by the nature of what we do and train for. That's why I think in a lot of ways it's probably one of the best things that happens is it does train our body to breathe better and use oxygen in a more efficient way. I mean, that's just an obvious thing, but it's not the way people think about it a lot of times. He actually is on these scientific warpath to prove that this kind of stuff can cure depression, just normal modern day ills that he believes are basically rooted in the fact that our cells deep in our body just aren't getting the oxygen they need to live, and it's making parts of our nervous system fail. Anyway, that's talking about another tangent, but I suppose that could apply.
We got way off topic there for a little bit.
That could apply to pain.
Yeah, it could definitely apply to pain.
I think so. Any other ideas? I mean, you go in the sauna. I mean, is that something that?
Yeah, I do go in the sauna. I think there's studies that show 30 minutes in the sauna, and that's that's physiological preparation. I wouldn't say that's that's doing the preparation to set yourself up for success. I mean, and that's what so many people just don't do. And whether it's training enough or whether it's training in the right enough conditions, there's just so many. You just need to approach everything with an intent to put yourself in the best situation to race well. Whether it's training in cold weather, if you're going to do where it's just a chance to be a cold race, or just prepare yourself to, or do things where you have to change it up. Because you could, face a race where you have no idea what the temperature is going to be like. I mean, it could vary. So I remember like Wisconsin's a good example. I think, 1 year it's been super hot there, and 1 year it was in like the 40s, and they had like a ridiculous like DNF rate, or it could be 60s and 70s like this last year, but it's just putting yourself in enough situations in training that just aren't comfortable. And how can you, and it could come as sometimes just like the simple things, like your day just doesn't go well. Are you going to make an excuse to not work out, or are you going to find a way to get it done?
Yeah.
It starts with like little simple things like that, and if you can't tackle that simple obstacle, then what are you going to do when you get a flat tire in a race? What are you going to do when it's 60 degrees and then the day of the race it's 90? Or it's super windy, or you lose your nutrition. It's like you always gotta, your perfect plan never happens. No. You just have to always be ready to adapt and continue to go and be calm and think clearly and be patient and make the best decisions you can at the moment. And that's never quitting, right. unless it's you're a danger to yourself or others when it comes to injuring yourself or being unsafe on the bike. But other than that, like it'll feel better to stop, but quitting never feels the best. It just doesn't.
No. And well, at the core, I think this is what it kind of helped me understand right there what I'm trying to articulate when I think about pain. Now, is pain pain or is pain discomfort? Because discomfort is different than pain. And also, I think that in modern day lifestyle, we tend to lean towards comfort when we don't realize that our body craves discomfort and pain, and that's what wakes up our muscles and our nervous system, and it kind of helps build strength and immunity and things like that. So I often wonder if people really have pain or it's just extreme discomfort and they opt for the comfort zone.
Yeah, I always say that pain is like an uncomfortable hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there's the pain of losing someone, there's the pain of losing your job, there's the pain of a long bike ride, there's the pain of not succeeding at the race you want to. They're all different kinds of pain, but they're all uncomfortable and they all hurt.
Yeah.
And it's your desire and you're just human nature to want to be comfortable and to not hurt that makes it so difficult to manage, whether it's an emotional, mental, or physical pain. You approach them all the same. There's just, a lot of people would tell you there's a mental and emotional pain for most individuals is far, far more excruciating than any kind of physical pain.
Right.
And that's just something that you have to, and you look, if you look at, some of the greatest athletes, and, I'm not a great athlete, but I'll use myself as an example, like some of the more ridiculous physical feats that I've ever done were at a time in my life where I was going through so much mental and emotional pain that the physical pain was like a joke. Mm-hmm. It was just like, I was like, this is nothing. If I can withstand, then I can be resilient. And sometimes I ain't resilient enough. Sometimes it's just being okay at suffering enough that if I can just suffer through, this period of time in my life, then suffering through this for today, that's a piece of cake. It's almost like a welcome distraction. It's almost comfort, which is weird. Think of it that way, is if you're struggling physically and emotionally, which a lot of people, who gravitate towards these ultra distance stuff, they gravitate it towards it because that different kind of discomfort and hurt actually makes them feel better because they're in so much pain in other areas of their life. I think it's a real interesting balance where it kind of evens itself out. As you've got so much hurt in one area that you try to hurt yourself so much in another area that it kind of brings you back to some like really weird, not so healthy homeostasis to where it's all like kind of evened out and you're just kind of back to, you're not on top of the water, you're not below the water, you're just kind of treading water again.
Yeah, that's a really interesting angle on that. I agree with it 100%. I also think that, as you're talking about emotional pain or physical pain, whatever it may be, but I think you would agree that the real growth happens on the other side of that pain, and we tend to retreat or hide, and I'm not immune to this. I do it all the time. I avoid things because it feels like it's going to hurt, or it seems painful to have to deal with it. But every time I face the fire, so to speak, I come out the other side stronger and usually better off because of it. And I think that releases some of that emotional pain in some way.
I think that's one of our favorite quotes is, what matters most is how you walk through the fire, and I think you're going to walk through it differently each time. Mm-hmm. I know for me, a challenge for me the last couple of years is, before I got sober and I was in a really difficult place in my life, like, swim the suck, for example. I did a 10-mile river swim with about a week's notice, and I did well, and it was excruciatingly painful. But in that time in my life, it brought me to, like I said, like a level playing field to where it kind of evened itself out. Like I could dig far enough on the physical pain side that I had to at least draw some energy and some strength away from battling the other, demons, to where it kind of gave me a release. It gave me a release of pressure. And now on the other side of that is I've been sober here for 3 years, is that the way that I tackle pain now is so much different.
Yes.
And you have to learn, and I have to adapt, and I have to think, oh man, this is different. I used to focus on negative things and trying to prove people wrong and doing this, and then you deal with pain a certain way, and then you come over here and my motivation is sometimes I'll think about my son and wanting to set a good example, and like thinking about those different ways to get through pain. It's such a totally different approach and way to deal with it and walk through it than before, and it just makes you kind of like question, and it's always made me question here the last couple years, like, can I dig deep, will I ever be able to dig deep enough into the pain to go hard enough or go fast enough like I did before, knowing that I don't have maybe as deep a reserve that is needed every single day just to function. Because my life's in a totally different place. It's wonderful. I mean, I couldn't be happier. I don't have as many daily demons that I'm just constantly battling and using that for. So I got to kind of find it somewhere else, and kind of it's weird to use it for good. It's kind of a way to look at it. But it's a weird approach, and I think it's always changing. Depending on what part of your life it's in. And it's kind of always said that, triathlon always kind of fits a piece of your life, no matter what, area or time it is. It can fit whatever you need it to fit. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but you can always plug it in.
Yeah. Well, you hope that it creates good habits. You hope that it supplements good habits or something like that versus going out of balance one way. I mean, from what you described about your 10-mile swim, that almost seems going through pain from a masochistic perspective versus not be, it was almost to prove that you could do it more so than you had the strength to do it. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of just, it was
totally. It's. I think it's. I guess it's more of a, I'm hurting so much inside. Let me bring this pain to the surface.
Yeah.
Which is the physical pain. Which that's how it manifests itself. When you, excuse me, when you've got a headache and people tell you to pinch or put pressure on this part of your body to relieve it. Kind of that as an example, but I think it's more of a. You're hurting inside, you're dealing with something. Let me bring that pain to the surface and feel it in a way that I deem appropriate, and that I can maybe let it go. But it doesn't go away, but it kind of lets you purge it for a little bit, even though you're kind of flogging yourself in the meantime.
Yeah, it really does do that. I remember a couple times when I've been out, and I've been dealing with some pretty extreme emotional pain. I lost a couple friends over the last 5 years, really close friends, and both times I remember being just, kind of immobilized to a degree, and also remember during that time going out for one of those, fuck it, I'm gonna go out and just run kind of things, and just and
always a mistake.
Dean Carnegie right. Kind of like run, down to the next city or some, through the night type deal. But I've done that a couple times in those situations, and I've literally started bawling my eyes out in the middle of the run. And I think that can't be a bad thing. It helps, like you're saying, it kind of helps manifest some of that. And, you just hope that kind of triggers a healthy method of dealing with some of that emotional pain, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Man, do either of us have a psychology license?
Me, no. I mean, I could probably get I could probably get one as much therapy as I've had. I could probably get like an osmosis degree.
Yeah, man. I think that's the life of
Hey, it's all about experience, man.
It really
It's
is.
experience. Absolutely. I think I could definitely get. I slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night. That's
Yeah.
basically what it's like.
If you could see my bookshelf, you would think that
Right.
I dabble a little bit myself. So, anything else you'd like to add to the subject of pain?
No, I think that's a good place to end it.
Okay. I hopefully some of this stuff made sense, and I think it did. It's things I always think about, and I do think that a large part of being successful at Ironman distance is being able to negotiate that pain multiple times throughout the race. And for me, like I said, one of the biggest keys is just to kind of relax and let your body flow through the race more than fight it. So
Yeah, it's accepting the pain and then preparing yourself to know it's going to be there and being okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And pain is resistance, so sometimes I think it's I often say too that when I'm at my best, going faster seems easier.
Mm-hmm. Get it over with.
Yeah, and just let your body do what it's going to do and what it's ready to do. So anyway, buddy. All right, man. Well, it's been great casting with you again.
It has. We'll do it again. Let's get one done later this week too, unless you got big Thanksgiving plans.
No, I don't have. I'm going to spend most of the Thanksgiving podcasting.
Sweet. Then I will too.
No, yeah. So if you got, what's the thing? Oh, if you've got any things you want us to cover or any
questions? Yeah, questions, comments, topics, email us.
Yeah,
and we'll be happy to address it.
Yeah, you can email CrushingIron@gmail.com and we'll get to that. And as you know, we are now on iTunes, so if you want to subscribe on there and leave us some ratings, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
We get this thing going because we're not going to stop until we reach the top.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. I will catch up with you later, man.
Sounds good, man. See you, Mike.
See you, buddy. Bye.